Hello there, and welcome to the CP7 podcast. My name's Palm.
And I'm Andy.
And together, we are Chrono Passion 7. Welcome to a very special show. First thing, straight in to a wristwatch check. Andy, what's on the wrist then?
So, I have managed to take off the Coram Gold bar at last. It is off my wrist. I'm giving some new love to the Zenith Monopusher. It was on quite an old leather strap, which was starting to look almost 100 years old like the watch. Now summer's over, my wrist isn't as swollen as it was through the summer, and it was really loose, looking a little bit tatty, and it's kind of making me fall out of love with the watch a little bit. So Black Friday, I found a relatively nice navy blue NATO strap. I wasn't sure if it would work well on this watch, but when I put it on, it fit perfectly and it matches perfect to the blued hands, and it's just made the watch look and feel a lot more tooly. And in a collection of dress watches, which is pretty much my watch collection these days for now, it's nice to have something what just feels a bit more sportier, even though it's a antique watch, which is kind of funny. But yeah, it's giving it some new life, and I'm really enjoying it. How about yourself, Pam?
Yeah, I agree. That's totally changed that watch, hasn't it? It's made it turned a dress watch into a very tooly watch, which is really cool. So today I'm wearing my Breitling Cult 41 with a lovely grey dial. It's got the traditional Breitling looks with the case, very tooly, very military looking. You can't say it's a dive watch, you can't say it's a field watch. It's a combination of the two. But that grey dial and that very tooly nature of it makes it one of the favourites in my collection. And the red pointer on the seconds hand, as you watch it sweep round, really does give it a really nice effect. But the grey dial it has it's really nice, and that's why I bought it, because if you guys are getting to know me, dials mean a lot to me. Dials are the selling point of a watch for me. Breitling's a brand I really do like. It's not everyone's cup of tea, but for me, there's a lot of heritage there, a lot of history in the brand, and that's what I'm wearing today. So, Andy, what are we talking about today then?
So, on today's show, as always, we like to give ourselves quite the challenge. And being truthfully honest, we thought this was going to be an easy one. And I don't know if you tell us, but I don't know how easy it has been. So, today's show, we're talking about our top picks of 2023 released watches. We have chosen around 5. I've sneaked a sneaky 6 in mine. So, our top 5 / on my side, top 6 watches from 2023. And then also a bit of a fun and wild card choice as well. You know us by now, we like to mix it up a little bit. So, as always, sit back, relax, and we really hope you're going to enjoy this show.
Just for the listeners, this is not in any particular order. These are just our favourite watches released this year. So, Andy, go for it. What's your first pick?
So my first pick is from H. Moser, a brand who, I have to be honest, I've really fallen for this year, and I blame it all on Geneva Watch Days in every good way possible. I finally got to handle the Streamliner there, like I said on the episode where we covered Geneva Watch Days, and I just love the new Streamliner. I think it's absolutely beautiful, coming in at 39 millimeters, and it has that gorgeous blue fume dial. It's enamel, and it's been pressed in a way what makes it look like it's been chiseled. It really does look fantastic. It has 3 different tonalities running through that dial, which just looks like a rich, vast ocean. It really is incredible. Then, powering this brilliant watch is the HMC 500 caliber, which is a brand new caliber with a platinum rotor now, micro rotor inside. And what's really cool about this movement is that it's smaller and slimmer than the previous, which means they can start to get slimmer profiles within their ranges full stop, which is great. So I'm looking forward for 2024 to see what we're going to release there as well. And it offers a very generous 74-hour power reserve as well. So I just think it's a really cool looking watch. And then the sleeked down the bracelet as well. It's a lot slimmer, a lot sleeker, and I really like it. This is where I sneak in that extra, which I was talking about. I could not say H. Moser and then not talk about the Endeavour Tourbillon concept with the Vantablack dial. They call it red gold. I believe myself and Pam would just say rose gold, but Moser technically call it red gold. I think it's an absolutely incredible piece. It has a patent on this piece with a dual hairspring technology for the tourbillon, so there's just no room for error whatsoever. So it's a very reliable movement, and that comes from the HMC 804 movement, which is an incredible piece of technology. But really, the real beauty of this watch is that Vanta black dial and the way it just draws you, sucks you into that tourbillon. It's absolutely incredible, and I'd summarize Moser in a few simple words as it's highly complicated yet simply brilliant. And I really believe that's the idea of Moser. With this Vanta Black technology, absorbing 99.9% of light, like Palm said previous show, it's just mind-blowing how these dials look in the flesh. And I believe, Palm, you still have that attachment, right? It hasn't gone. I think you're still loving the Vanta Black dials.
Yes, of course. That was one of my picks, actually, the Moser Endeavour Vanta Black. So they made it in two variations, and I appreciated both of them. A center seconds and the tourbillon. The center seconds is run on the HMC 200 movement. It's 40 millimeters, 72-hour power reserve, but the red gold and this incredible dial are the real selling points of this watch. That's what makes this watch a rock star, because it is really something else. Like I've spoken before, I'm not going to repeat exactly what I said, but it absorbs 99.9% of the light. And while on the center seconds you get indices at every hour, the tourbillon, there's no indices on there. You have a skeletonized tourbillon. You have skeletonized tourbillon bridges, and the tourbillon is placed at 6 o'clock. And when I was talking about this last time, it felt like I was being sucked into the dial, because it was just absorbing light, and it almost absorbs you into it as well as you're looking at the dial. You forget the watch, you forget the time. But as there's a tourbillon there, it almost feels like you're being pulled into like a black hole with a big thresher, which is going to chop you into little bits as well. So it's quite a dangerous looking watch. It just shows how Moser have just nailed it with this one. They've absolutely smashed it. But one criticism I do have for it, I do put it in my favorite watches for this year, definitely, is I just think the case shape could be a bit more interesting. And I think a lot of Moser watches as well, the standard round, I mean, the Streamliner, of course, has its own unique identity and DNA. But watches like this could have a more interesting case shape, because if you listen to our last episode at Watch Pro, we were at Gerald Childs, and they have a very unique style of case. Okay, it may not be everyone's cup of tea, a kind of shield-shaped case, but maybe Moser could try and, experiment a little bit on their traditionally shaped watches and give them a bit more of a modern, contemporary look to them. That's the only criticism, because there was so much going on. It looked so cool, but the case was a little bit boring. The shape was, but the watch was amazing. So that's the only gripe I'd have with it. But again, an absolutely incredible watch. So that is my first one.
It's really interesting, your comments on the K shape, because I think you're correct. I think you look at these watches, and I've said this previously, so apologies for repetition once more, but I do think Moser are the king of dials right now, and I think you can't help but just be drawn to the dial, and you don't really consider as you say, the case so much. But if you just take the dial away and look at the actual cases, I think there is room for more contours and a bit more playfulness. I agree, and that I'm glad you said that, because that leads me to an extremely playful watch. So my second pick, the Zodiac Laser Tag. I saw this very recently at the Watch Pro Salon, so if you haven't listened to episode 7, tune in, because you're going to hear Mike Pearson describe this watch far better than I ever can. And where to start with this watch? It's just fun, it's funky, it's 90s nostalgic. It comes in at 40 millimeter. It has the new STP movements in from Zodiac, which is great. They're going more in-house now, which just frees them up to do more creative things within their range as they grow, which is brilliant. But really, the star of the show is the watch itself. How does that watch feel? How does it look? It just pops with color. It's funky. It has contours where they've managed to put in additional lume, and parts of the watch loom up, parts of the watch start to glow under luminescent lighting. So it is lots of hidden Easter eggs within this watch, even down to the packaging and the box. And for around €1,300, I just think it's such a fun and playful watch. And it's a great reminder to the industry that sometimes you can let your hair down and have fun and still make a great product. And I really think Zodiac has achieved that. And it's the mastermind behind this is from One Unwound. And it was Zach Rice who had this inspiration and the 90s nostalgia coming back to to him, and I'm glad he did. I think it's a great collaboration, and yeah, well done to One and One and Zodiac on this piece. But it's certainly one of my favorite pieces this year. It's just one of the most fun and playful watches I have seen. So yeah, that's my second pick.
Excellent. That was a really cool watch. That was. It was very funky. So my second pick is what I would consider a modern design classic when it comes to watches, and it's the Bulgari Octo Finissimo. But this year, Bulgari released a carbon gold Octo Finissimo. Now, the Octo is a watch I hope to put into my collection in the future, but this one is something else. I would probably go for a regular stainless steel one with the blue dial, or potentially the titanium with that grey dial. But this is called carbon gold. So it's got a carbon case, bracelet, and dial with rose gold accents. So the indices and the small seconds are in rose gold, and it's ultra thin. These were officially the thinnest watches before Richard Mille introduced their Ferrari watch last year, I believe. But the thing about this one, the detailing on a carbon watch is very interesting. But this almost looks like marble. It's a very marbled effect on that carbon. And I'm just wondering, I mean, being Italian, Bulgari, and Fabrizio Buonamassa Stigliani being the creator of this, and Bulgari being a Roman brand, could it potentially be a very Italian marbly kind of influence on this? And was this what he wanted to put on this? By the way, we do have an interview with him, which will be coming up in the upcoming weeks, where we will talk about the Octo, and we'll add a few questions that we asked him on that. But keep listening out for that. That's not for this show. But I do almost feel like there's an Italian marbly look to it. Very bold, very proud, and very attractive, good-looking watch. The one thing also with this is it kind of turns the black gold color combination on its head, because you normally would have a black dial and a gold case, but this is a black case with gold accents. So yet it has that black gold effect on a watch. So if you wore this, you would have that watch with that contrast. For me personally, black and gold, while some people may think it's not the most traditional, I think it has a very striking look, and there's something very deep and dark and cool about it, and that's what I like. But the way this has turned it on its head, I found really impressive. And the marbled effect and the carbon, the lightweight feeling of it, we did get to see this at Geneva Watch Days. So we have first-hand experience on this with a 60 hours power reserve. Again, 2.23 millimeters thick. It's quite an incredible watch. It's quite a marvel of engineering, and it's just beautiful. The Octo sometimes might not sit so well on the wrists of some people. The first time I ever tried one on, I found it, wow, this is just totally dominating my wrist. But after a while, once you get it, you understand what it's doing, what it represents, and why, it's the thinnest watch, and it's supposed to look like that. That's the actual USP of this watch. You will fall in love with it like I did. So that is my number two. Well, my second pick, sorry.
Yeah, no number twos, please. Um, so yeah, excellent choice. I I do love the Octo Finissimo, and but yeah, it was crazy when you're handed that piece. You think it's going to weigh a lot. It looks like, as you said, carved out of marble, and it's carbon. So yeah, just a stunning piece. Check them out if you never have seen them, or if you ever get the opportunity to try one, make sure you do. It's a brilliant piece. So, what's pick number 3 from my side is a Rolex GMT. So, I think there's going to be a thumbs up from Palm on this one. I've gone for the Guinness, the 126713 GRNR, and it's just that classic black and gold, which I'm sorry, I'm reiterating what you just said, Palm, to a point. I love black and gold. I just think it pops, and you've just got this clean black dial with the numerals in white and the white Rolex text, and it's just a beautiful, simple, clean contrast. But then you've got the beautiful two-tone. I don't understand for the life of me why two-tones are not popular. I think they're so cool, so much value for money, and people are paying over the odds for steel, and they can pay less and get gold. I don't get it, but that's fine. It gives us these pieces for a better price, so it's a loss at the end of the day. But I just love classic two-tone. Let's make two-tones cool again. It has that classic Jubilee bracelet, introduced in 1945, just as a bit of nostalgia or a bit of history there on the original Datejust. So in 1945, that's when the Jubilee was introduced for the Datejust. It has the 3285 movement, bringing 70 hours of power reserves. So again, introduced in 2018, brings great power, great reliability. It's just a solid classic Rolex GMT Master 2, right? What's not to love about it? I could go on and on. But yeah, I'm starting to really understand the love of Rolex from Palm's perspective these days. Maybe been hanging around with you too much. But yeah, that's my number 3 pick.
Excellent. We do like to hear that. Yeah, that Guinness is, I don't know why. Sometimes, again, color combinations on that bezel, they just shift everything and change everything on a watch. So, ironically, my number 3 is a Cartier, which Andy's a massive fan of, but it's the Tank Normal, which was re-released this year. The size of it is 36.2 millimeters by 25.7. And as much as Andy's tried to get me into vintage and try smaller watches, the only time I will wear a watch which is considered small for a gentleman is a Cartier Tank. For me, that's the quintessential dress watch. The only time I'm happy to wear something so small and not be fazed by it and think this is something very historical and this is something very dressy, elegant, and classy. So they re-released 2 versions this year, one in yellow gold and one in platinum. I like both of them. I just love that 7-link bracelet. It's got such classic vintage vibes to it. It just looks like a step back in time when you're wearing that. You're at a swanky ball or a swanky dinner, and you've got one of those on your wrist. And it's got an interesting history. The first one actually debuted in 1918, and the prototype was actually issued to an American military general, John Pershing, by Cartier, because of the links with the tank to Renault tanks. That could be a reason why that happened. But general production started in 1919. And ever since then, I don't think it's been used as a military watch. It has been a dress watch through and through from then on. The new ones, they're limited to 100 pieces. So this is not something I've actually had hands on with, unfortunately, and probably never will. But just the look of them look absolutely stunning. They've got a brushed silver dial, épée hands, which they've taken from 1940s normals. So as time has gone on, they've incorporated features of different versions of this watch onto this new one. So the yellow gold version has a blue cabochon, but interestingly enough, the platinum version has a red, almost pink cabochon, which gives it just a little bit extra sparkle there. Like I say, I'm a massive fan of the Tank, and this one to me could be the best they've ever made. Can I say that? Is that is that allowed? But that is what I would say is my number 3.
Ooh, the best ever tank made. Let us know in the comments. Gosh, I'm just glad the tank was made full stop. It's an absolute iconic beauty and a great choice once again. So that brings me to choice number 4, I believe. Number 4 already. So for me, I have gone for quite a fun watch. I've gone for the Omega Ultra Deep 75th anniversary. An amazing piece, originally introduced, in 2019, and it made it to one of the deepest places on Earth in the Mariana Trench, reaching that 10,935 meters deep. That's just incredible, right? These watches are quite insane at 45.5 millimeter. It's going to take up a lot of your wrist space, and the trade-off for that, or the benefit, should I say, for that extra size is the 6,000 meters of water resistance. It's an absolute tank. It has the Omega steel, which is a new composite of steel material, which Omega claim helps it have a lighter color. So that's one of the side effects, but seen as a benefit, it gives it a nicer look, let's say. But the key selling point here is apparently it's 45 to 50% stronger than regular steel as well, which is quite cool. The bit what I really like about this piece is the hidden Easter egg. And again, I like brands when they're being playful, and I like that they have, when you loom up the dial, it has the Omega was here on the Mariana Trench, where they got to the 10,935 meters, which is just really cool. And I'll finish with the dial, similar to Palm dials really do speak to me. And how can you not talk about the 1 million sonar points used to map the ocean floor to then replicate onto the dial? So the detail of this dial is incredible. It's pretty much light for light the ocean sea floor of where this watch made it to such insane depth. So I just think it's a really cool piece, and it doesn't hurt the bank too much for what you're getting, I believe. I just think it's a really cool release. I like it a lot. I think it's my favorite from the 75th range in general. And yeah, what more can I say about this piece? It's just, I was considering buying it at one point. Maybe I will in the future. I'm not sure, but I do really appreciate it. I think it's a really impressive feat of strength from Omega, and is that classic Tom and Jerry, if you like, between Rolex and Omega for these insane deep sea challenge watches. So, it's always fun seeing what Rolex have up their sleeve in response and vice versa. I think this game will keep going, and it provides great entertainment in the watch community. Anyway, that is my number four, sorry. So, Palm, what you got for us?
So for my number 4 is a watch I never thought I would like. And I mean, having seen these as well in the flesh, but we got back from Geneva Watch Days and I didn't think about Breguet at all. I mean, I know Breguet is a brand with amazing heritage and everyone should love the history of the brand at least, if not their watches, even though their watches are amazing. And it is the Type 20 2067 ST, a flyback chronograph, which is their latest version, the military version produced for Geneva Watch Days. And it's just, there's something about this. It's got a black dial. I mean, it's got faux patina on the Arabic numerals. It's got a really unique layout on the dial for a chronograph. At 3 o'clock, you'll see it's totally out of sync dimensions wise with the other two at 6 and 9. And yet it works. And it's got a bidirectional rotating steel bezel. It's 42 millimeters and 14.1 millimeters thick. So it's not a small watch, but it has an open caseback and it's Breguet. It's the best. It comes from heritage and it comes from class. Yeah, a little fact I wasn't aware of before was that Breguet Aviation actually made planes for France during World War One. So you can see they are steeped in aviation heritage. The actual first one that came out, given a bit of a history lesson, was commissioned for the French Ministry of Defense. It was a chronograph which was made for them in the 1950s. So, like I said, this was a watch that I'd never thought I would like. I had never shown much interest in it. But sometimes you look back on photographs and then you just remember how a watch felt on your wrist, how it felt wearing it, having that watch, having a Breguet on your wrist. Sometimes it's hard to give a watch back when you look and you see that branding or something about it, the name, an iconic name or an iconic brand on the watch, and then you suddenly click and make a connection with it. And I think with this one, that was definitely the case because I just love it. I have to get one. So I do think I would love to get a Type 20 one day. And who knows, it could be this one. So that is my number 4. Andy.
So we're staying on the theme of Breguet, which I believe it says a lot. Gosh, so again, Geneva Watch Days definitely did something to us, I think, and just opened our eyes so much on this new journey in the world of journalism. For me, one watch what really stood out to me from Breguet is the Breguet Classique Repetition Minutes 7637. And we've got to pause a minute before dive into the watch and just take a moment to appreciate the innovation from Breguet. So Abraham Breguet, he had a huge passion for these complications, minute repeaters. And in 1783, let's just stop and think about that for a moment. 1783, he was already innovating the striking blades on minute repeating watches. To me, that just blows my mind. That's almost 250 years ago. That's how you respect Breguet. How can you not respect a brand with such history, such historical roots? It's just absolutely brilliant. And just the level of detail what goes into these pieces, going back to the new classique repetition, it's just incredible. They're all handmade and each watchmaker is tuning the actual striking gong, and every single minute repeater is almost bespoke to you because each one sounds different. We actually had the demo in the boutique and heard that for ourselves, and it was incredible when you flip over the watch and then you've got this hand engraved masterpiece, is no other way to say it, of a movement. It's just mind-blowing. And then think, okay, what more can this watch offer? It sounds brilliant. It's got an excellent complication. The complication has incredible finishing. And then you've got the grand fur enameling on the dial, which is a painful technique where each layer of color is applied. When it goes in the furnace at over 800 degrees, And you know how dangerous enameling is for any brand. There can be cracks, there can be problems. And again, due to this process, it's impossible for any one of these dials to look similar to one another. Obviously, it's going to have the same color tones, but it won't be identical. It will have slightly different pigments to the coloration of the dial, which is just, for me, incredible. It has the classic Breguet numerals, but then it has the secret numerals in there as well, which even the experts at Breguet don't know what they represent. There's a lot of mystery around that, and then even on the crystal, it has a hidden signature, Breguet signature, which is just a really sweet touch. It all I can say, this watch just for me symbolizes excellence, class, sophistication, and I love it. And yeah, that's my number 5. What more can I say? So Palm, let's find out, what is your number 5?
No, I agree with you. Breguet is Breguet. No, Breguet is something very special, and I'm sure is respected the world over by anyone who understands watches. So my number 5 was a watch I was very fortunate to see just last week. I'd been looking forward to seeing it. It's by Zinn. It's the 356 Classic W. It's a Panda dial chronograph, Panda dial bicompax display chronograph with 2 registers. And Zinn is a brand that I just think when you talk value for money and sturdiness, and a watch is going to last and it's going to look good and it actually has a proper function, not just an aesthetic gimmick. Zinn is that brand, I think, that really covers all of that off. The matte silk white dial was incredible. It had an acrylic glass, but for €500 extra, you can get a sapphire crystal put on it. And again, what they did, it's a Panda dial chronograph, but what they've done is they put it on a nubuck grey strap, which I've not seen any other pandas put on. And it just works. Just everything about this looks stylish yet functional. It's something I'm glad I saw. I saw the pictures. I thought, okay, this looks nice. And then when I saw it in person, I thought, okay, this is definitely something I like. I mean, a lot of these watches are nice to haves, but I think this is an affordable one as well. So this, with its SW510 movement and a second stop function as well, it just ticks every box for a Panda dial chronograph. If you want one without having to overinvest in the usual suspects, which you may never get, I just think this was really cool. It's really stunning. It just sat on the wrist very well. Definitely one of my favorites when I saw marketing pictures, and confirmed one of my favorites when I saw it in the flesh. So that's my number 5. That leads us in to a bonus pick, which is a wild card, a watch that you wouldn't normally get but has caught your eye, was released this year, and you just want to say, hey, I wouldn't mind having it. So Andy, what's your wild card?
So, what is my wild card? My wild card is the Urwerk UR102 Reloaded. And what's really cool about this piece, again, it's a re release from a piece which was released 2 decades ago, which is just quite incredible. It was originally released at Baselworld in 1997. The original came in at 38 millimeters, and now we're up to 41 millimeters. And it's funny because it was actually inspired by the Sputnik satellite. And I Googled this satellite. I couldn't really see the connection, but the founder of Urwerk, he was inspired by this satellite relating to this piece. So I'd love to maybe one day sit with him and understand that vision. But what I can say is I'm glad it inspired him, because the watch is just so cool and fresh. I tried on the PVD black steel version, what they had, and some would say it looks, it's wildcard because it looks a bit like a weighing scale. But I just really liked it. It felt light on the wrist. It just felt funky, fresh. I'm a bit into these kind of watches. You have the floating hour, if you like. So the hour follows the minute track. So the hour floats over the relevant minute. And then once it gets to 60 minutes, it will pop back and change to the next hour. So it's a really nice complication and a really unique way of telling the time. And then researching this watch, a little bit, I came across that they also do a titanium version. So it's almost a silver look, and then a blue dial, and then a white crisp strap. And I freaking love it. I think it is awesome. I think it's fresh, funky. I really like Urwerk. I think they do some really cool designs. And a little bit of history on this one. This was the first round Urwerk whatever came available, because all the other designs are quite, square and sharp kind of styles. They're really fun watches. If you don't know the brand so much, check them out. They're doing some great things. But for me, it's just a fun, fresh looking watch, and especially now I've discovered the titanium edition. I love it. I think it's brilliant. So yeah, that's my wild card. So Palm, I'm interested. What is it? What have you chosen?
Well, I have chosen something that's just been recently released. It was released at Dubai Watch Week, and it's the Oris Pro Pilot X 400 Laser. And on the topic of Dubai Watch Week, unfortunately, I had to cancel my trip last minute, so I couldn't go. So I was pretty gutted about that. And social media was just an explosion of Dubai Watch Week. But one thing that cheered me up was seeing this watch. Oris is a brand that's very close to my heart. It was the first, when I got my first job with my first salary, I bought an Oris Big Crown 3. And then shortly after that, I also bought a Big Crown Pointed Date because I was so impressed with it. I haven't bought any since then, but the brand will always stick in my mind as being those first watches I bought. But this is a whole different level. I love the fact that it's a modern pilot's watch and it's in titanium. I think when you look at a collection, you think, right, what do I want in my collection? And now titanium seems to be a category that seems to be sneaking into that. One of the watches you should have a titanium watch. The Tudor Pelagos 39 or an A Pelagos was a possibility, but I think this has actually overtaken that in my mind because this one has a very interesting dial. It's got a shimmering blue, green, and violet finish to the dial. The dial is actually made of titanium. There's not a drop of paint on it. It's all done by lasering techniques which have never been used in a watch before. This process was created in a Zurich research lab, and the result is this stunning, beautiful 3-color dial which shimmers and changes in the light, and it just catches your eye. It just, you see it and it just takes you with it. It takes your line of sight with it. It's something very, very cool. I mean, they did the Kermit earlier this year. I'm a big fan of that as well. And the dial on that, don't be under any illusion that that's just a basic green dial. That also shimmers and changes color, but not like this. This is something special. So it's quite a funky bit of technology, but also just a funky looking dial that just is really will take your attention. So for me, that is my wild card.
Excellent choice. So here's where we mix things up a little bit. So we've talked about our favorite releases of the year, and this is a little bonus segment if you like. I think we're maybe aligned on this after previous discussions, but the most underwhelming release or disappointing release of 2023, which was it for you?
I know we're 100% in agreement here. It's not the watch, it's just the way the watch was delivered and what we were told to expect. What we were expected to expect. It is the Tudor FXD with the black dial, and that's the only way I can actually explain it because there's nothing different about a different color NATO strap and a black dial and a massive build-up. So actually, let's work on this together. I think because I think we have a mutual disappointment here.
I don't even know where to begin. So everything you said, I agree with. Right? What annoyed me was such hype, the big countdown on the Tudor website, and then it's just like, oh, it's an FXD with a black dial and a bit of a new NATO. And then, there's journalists in, I'm not going to say any names, but the journalists out there are like, it's the best thing ever. This amazing. The NATO strap, it just works. It's incredible. Like, you can buy a NATO anywhere you want. It doesn't justify the amazement of a new release for me personally, right? Come on. Like, you can have one bespoke made. Who cares? I just didn't get it, and it annoyed me greatly. What more could I say?
I agree, no, because I think it was almost Tudor trying to tell people, stop asking for the Submariner. It's not going to happen. Because even the advertising was all the old 60s military stuff going on. And it was just basically, stop asking for a Submariner. This FXD, this is your Submariner now. Let it go. And they had to do it with something so unimaginative. They could, I mean, I like the ones they did earlier on with the Red Bull. A lot of people don't like them, but at least they had a pop of color on it. It was okay, Red Bull branding, not everyone's thing, but I didn't mind it. I thought at least it's different. Some people were saying, what's so good about it? It's just got a Red Bull badge on it. But what's so good about this? It's just got a black dial and a different color, a green NATO strap with was it a red stripe in it or orange? I can't even remember.
Yeah, it was like green with a bit of black or something, which certain media flipped over. Like it was the best thing since the slice of bread. I totally agree. The Lange Racing is cool and controversial. Once more, I preferred the chronograph. I thought that was the most fun, funky one. And there was some people don't have chronographs, in a military watch. I don't know. I don't get it. Anyway, we like to break the mold and we make the rules, right? That leads me to, let's just confess to, our listeners, we have a bit of a hate towards a certain watch, right? And it was a watch what
Same
was
brand.
released, yeah, same brand, released last year. I don't know if I can say it. It's the
Ranger.
Tudor Ranger. Ugh. Yeah, we can't stand it, right? We hate it.
No,
Most
it's just. Uh, I'm a big fan of the Explorer. I really am, and I know it looks like the vintage Explorer a bit, but at 39 millimeters and just trying to look like, I don't know. Maybe it was again to appease people to say, look, the 39 is not coming back. Let it go. This is because that's what Tudor do. They bring back versions of watches for Rolex so that Rolex don't have to bring them back, and they can move forward and improve rather than say, oh, we're going to re-release this. But it angered me. I wouldn't say it angered me. It just, I didn't get it. I didn't like it. I thought if you're going to do, I'm a big fan of the Explorer. If you're going to do some kind of retro Explorer looking watch, make it look better than that. And the worst thing is I went and actually tried it on. I went to a boutique and fortunately, or unfortunately, I don't know, they had it. And I tried it on and it just, even the dimensions felt all wrong. And I was like, oh, get this off. I've never put a watch on and thought, get this off my wrist. Normally, I'm really on board with stuff. I'll give everything a chance and I like most things. But this was one thing I was like, no. I mean, it's not a watch for this year, but it's maybe for all time so far. This is, it was one that I don't like and I know Andy doesn't like either.
all time worst release. Like they're gonna really have to up the game to make a worse watch. Like everything was wrong. The space on the dial. I just can't stand it. It's just a boring, uninteresting watch, which doesn't capture, unfortunately, in this case, any beauty of an Explorer. I've had these debates on, previous, shows and with other watch collectors, like, how can you not like the Ranger if you like the Explorer? But it is not an Explorer. It doesn't have the K shape. It doesn't have the look. It doesn't have the perfect balance on the dial. It's just the most underwhelming release ever from the brand of Tudor. And we're not here to bash Tudor. I love Tudor, but the Ranger is an epic fail, but they do some great stuff. But the Ranger certainly in one of them.
No, the Tudor released some great watches recently as well, like the 39 millimeter titanium Pelagos. I think that was excellent. The Opaline dial GMT, I loved that. The new Black Bay range without the rotating bezel, with the smooth bezel, and the Jubilee strap, sunburst dials. I thought those were really nice watches. So they do release good watches. It's just that FXD was not up to the high standards I would expect from Tudor. And the Ranger most definitely was.
Yeah, I totally agree with everything you said there. We respect the brand. We love you, Tudor. I doubt you're listening, but if you are listening, big respect to you. There's a few pieces we don't love, but that goes with quite a lot of watch brands. Definitely the standout, the Ranger, just makes me shiver just saying the name. So yeah, look out for that recurring theme. We're definitely not fans of the Ranger, I'm afraid.
Okay, so let's do a quick turnaround from my watches. Which was your favorite? My picks.
So from all the watches, gosh, a great selection of watches, but I have to say the Cartier Tank Normal in the platinum. Yeah, I love the tank. It's classic, extremely versatile. You can wear a tank dressed down, dressed up. It's just ready for any occasion. It definitely fits my kind of style and lifestyle. And as you know, I'm a huge fan of Cartier. So joined by a very close second, the Moser Endeavour Tourbillon Concept was a bit of a joint pick from us, but yeah, who can't like that also? But yeah, I lean more towards a tank. Just I do have a bit of a soft spot for Cartier. But I'll bounce that question quickly back to you, Palm. Which would you pick from mine?
It's between two. So the GMT Guinness, the Rolex GMT Master 2, GRNR, also known as the Guinness two-tone. I'm a big fan of Rolex two-tone. I think Rolex do it so well. And I like that grey-black combination on the bezel. And the Breguet Minute Repeater. But I think in terms of horology, the Breguet wins. In terms of what I like, the GMT Master 2 wins. But like I said, there's something about Breguet. I remember being at a watch meet, and the next morning at the hotel at breakfast, someone who wasn't part of the meetup was sitting at the next table wearing a Breguet Tradition, and you just looked at him and you thought, I've seen all these watches, but this one stands out. You look like a watch guy. You look like you know what you're doing simply because you have a Breguet on. And to have a minute repeated complication in it as well, high horology, that for me, I'd say that shades it.
Excellent. So I believe that is all we have time for today. So as always, please follow the podcast if you're a new listener here. We promise we keep delivering great content. And remember to check out our show notes on chrono_passion_7 over on Instagram. So you can follow through every watch we're speaking about today. You're able to see them and browse through them as you listen to the show. So it gives you more of that visual experience. But as always, a huge pleasure from my side. And that's goodbye from me until next time.
Yeah, so that's us done for another show and done for the day. Thank you all so much for listening. We hope you enjoyed it. Check out our Instagram and we will see you and you will hear us in the next one.